Hi, I'm Claire, and I'm gonna be famous. Like most people my age who grew up on the internet, I had big dreams of being a famous YouTuber. I would daydream about posting some funny video about some profound and original topic to my hundreds of thousands of adoring fans, and then open my mailbox to a check from YouTube for $1 million. I didn't know how money worked. And for years, that's all this was, really. A pipe dream, a fantasy, a maladaptive coping mechanism to get me through high school. But this year, the year of our Lord 2025, something shifted in the cosmos and I decided to give it a shot. 2025 is the year that I go for my goals. I'm young, I'm spry, and I've already made pretty good strides. So far this year, I have worked my first professional acting gig. I've started a YouTube channel. I'm getting ready to move to my dream city, and I shaved my head for the second time, which means I'm fearless and invincible. So I rolled up my metaphorical sleeves and I got to work. I planned, scripted, filmed, edited, and released my first ever YouTube video. That's right, my first video got 4 views in the first 48 hours, and 3 of them were me. But any successful YouTuber will tell you that the key to gaining traction on this platform is consistency. No problem, I had plenty of ideas. So I got to work on a second video, and I was really excited about it. I was able to release it about a week and a half later. Same thing, not many views. And it's not like I was expecting to blow up or anything, but I think for the first time in my life, I was truly struck by the vastness of the internet. I felt like I was sending my heart and soul out into the YouTube void. That's okay. I'm getting the hang of it. I'm finding my groove. I can't wait to see what next week will bring. So, I had an idea, but then I started to film and my heart wasn't really in it, so I decided I would wait until I came up with another idea that I was more excited about. I mean, I have ideas, but they're all big and abstract and daunting. I can take a few days off, right? Surely something will come to me. I've already done the hardest part, which is starting. I've created the YouTube channel. The creative floodgates are open. All I have to do is wait. And wait. Wait a little bit longer. Huh. So it turns out that didn't work. And now it's been a month. Oopsies. The algorithm's gonna hate me for this. This was around the time I started to reflect on my creative habits. What am I doing to actively encourage, cultivate, and execute new ideas? And I couldn't really think of any. Like, I know that I have them, but when I get into a creative funk like this, it gets really hard to pull myself out of it. So, that is what I want to create here today, a series of trusty habits and practices that I can fall back on whenever I feel myself entering a creative rut. So, how do I find what practices work for me, you ask? I'm going to try the age old method of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. My main method of doing this, or the one that I want to focus on the most today, is through an exercise that I like to call speaking into the void. I decided that if I didn't have any ideas, I would just film myself talking to a camera and see what happens. No guidelines, no restrictions as to what I can talk about, no thoughts about who may or may not watch, what I was going to do with the footage. Am I wasting my time? It doesn't matter. It's just going to go into the YouTube black hole anyway. I had a few crochet projects that I wanted to work on, so I figured why not make something out of it. Beats mindlessly crocheting while Dairy Girls plays in the background like white noise, which is what I would have done otherwise. I have no idea what this is going to be. I have no idea what is going to happen, what I'm going to say. I have no idea if like this is the video in its final form. Like, am I just going to edit this and then send it off? Am I going to make it a part of like a bigger thing? Who knows? I've been on a big reading kick lately, so I haven't been crocheting as much. And now I've been getting back into crocheting. And I wanted to start a new project, but I realized I had like so many unfinished projects in my basket. So I want to get some of those out of the way before I start something new. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more row of like the double crochet mesh, and then I'm going to do another row of double crochets under that, and then half double, which will probably take up about like an inch. So it'll end around here, which is much better, I think. But this is coming along really well. I'm very excited about it. So this is going to be the front panel, and it's going to be, I'm going to make another one of these, and then I'm going to make the sleeves. can't remember how many I've done so far. I think I'm like 20% of the way through this sleeve. But we're just gonna work on some of these projects tonight and just talk, have a little chit chat. So I guess my goal in recording this video tonight is to embrace the fact that I don't have a plan for the next video. I just know that I'm in the mood to create something, and I feel like the longer that I let it sit, the harder it'll be to get back on it. But that's what tonight is all about. I am going to give future Claire something to work with. So there were a few general goals to this exercise. I wanted to give future editing Claire something to work with. I wanted to get more comfortable being myself on camera, and I wanted to allow myself to fully sit in the not knowing. And as you can see, Void Claire was a bit freaked out about that last one. So what I ended up with was about 2 hours and 17 minutes of just stream of consciousness style talking. Yes, it was a bitch to get on my computer to edit. And through this, I ended up sort of inadvertently taking myself through my artistic process, so I'm going to try to articulate it here as best I can. I have the day off on Sunday, and I know that I really, really would like to spend the day editing. So my job tonight and tomorrow is to give Sunday Claire something to edit, something to work with. And that, I think, is how we keep the ball rolling. Something I've been reflecting on a lot lately is all of the different aspects of self that go into creating something. If we use the YouTube channel as an example, there is brainstorming Claire, scripting Claire, filming Claire, editing Claire, and marketing Claire, I guess you would call her, the one that does the thumbnail and title and hashtags and all that stuff. And all of these parts have to work individually and in collaboration with one another to create the finished product, which is this video that you're watching right now. Hi! So the question is, how do we separate these parts of ourselves, and how do we then get all these parts to work together? And why even frame it this way in the first place? I don't know what this video is going to be, and I want to give myself permission to not know. That's a big thing that I've been thinking about lately. I want to give myself permission to not know exactly what I'm doing, to not know exactly what my next project is going to be, because I get so hung up. I always feel like I have to be like 5 steps ahead of myself at all times. You know? Like if I think of an idea for like a video, let's use that as an example. If I think of an idea for a video, I'm already thinking of what am I going to title the video? What's the thumbnail going to look like? How am I going to make this like as appealing as possible, I guess marketable as possible? I don't know. Like I'm always just thinking of like all the next steps and how I'm going to edit it and how I'm going to do all this stuff, envisioning it as a finished product when it's not even, it's barely even an idea right now, you know? And we all know that the best art comes from a place of being completely 100% in the present. Being completely in the present moment and creating from the present moment. That is how things are created. So, in order to take some of the pressure off, instead of focusing on the finished product and getting overwhelmed by everything that I haven't yet done or don't know how to do, I want to reframe it as a collaboration. I don't need to know everything, I just need to do my small part right now. Think of it as a form of self respect. If I'm filming, I'm not thinking about how I'm going to edit the video. My job is to do the best that I can do at performing the script that Scripting Claire wrote for me, and the best way to do that is to be 100% present right now. And me, filming Claire, knocking it out of the park and giving a great performance will in turn inspire editing Claire to do the best job that she can do, and so on and so forth. If anything, being concerned with the other parts undermines that self's ability to do her job, and I don't want to undermine her, I love her. She's sexy. And I also feel like one of the best parts of the creative process is the part when everything comes together, everything, you get like a big epiphany for how the finished product is going to look, and it's super, super exciting. Everything's coming together. Why do I want to rush that? Why do I want to take that away from future Claire? Why not let her have that. And that was a thought that really struck me. Thanks, Void Claire. I did have a great time coming up with the premise for this video, and I'm very happy that you saved that for me. I really like this way of thinking about the unknown. Instead of fear, frame it as excitement. It's like when you're in a play and the curtains go up. No matter how many times I perform, there's always that moment right before I step out on stage where I can feel the butterflies hammering around in my chest. And I could choose to recognize this feeling as fear, but what is that gonna do really? I'm going to have to step out on stage either way. The lights are gonna come on, the audience is going to be looking at me either way, and I'm going to have to give a performance either way. Calling this feeling fear will only create more fear and probably hinder my ability to perform and give myself over to the theater. Instead, I tell myself, I'm excited. Those butterflies are the same feeling that we get when I'm in line for a roller coaster. And then when I step out on stage, the feeling usually dissipates pretty quickly. Yeah, I think one of the worst parts for me about a creative block is just like how isolating it feels. Like it always feels like it's all on me. Like I am solely responsible for creating this thing, for getting myself out of this creative block, and it's just a lot of pressure. And it's like I need to create something, but I don't know what. And it's just it feels like that scene in Star Wars where like they're in the chamber where the walls are closing in. That's what it feels like. And so I'm trying to reframe it and make it feel like I'm not alone. Like, yes, it is my responsibility to make something, but it's also all the other versions of Claire's responsibility. It's, something that I'm making in conjunction with the universe, the creative source. It is my job right now to be on camera and to be recording. Like, whether or not any of this is, quote unquote, usable is none of my business, quite frankly. I recently read The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, and in it, he talks about how there's no such thing as a true creative block. We all have unlimited access to this abstract creative source where we get all of our ideas. And if you feel like you don't have access to it, it's because you're not letting yourself for whatever reason. And so, whenever I would refer to myself as being in a creative block or something similar, I would think back on this, and honestly, I got a little bit frustrated because it doesn't feel like I'm doing it to myself in the moment. I want to create. I'm desperate to create. So, how could I possibly be doing it to myself? But there are a lot of subtle, sneaky ways that we can get in our own way. And I think this friction comes from not allowing myself to be in full collaboration with myself. I've always said that the biggest part of learning to sing is getting out of your own way. When you learn to sing, you'll do exercises to minimize jaw tension, tongue tension, neck tension. And the reason that these areas tense up is because when our bodies go to hit a note that it deems too difficult, it gets scared and tries to help out. But really, it ends up hurting us more than helping. So we do these exercises to help relax our bodies so that the notes can flow through us unhindered. To bring this back to the broad topic of creativity, it's important to be in constant communication with yourself so that you can figure out where and why these blocks come up. And a good way to do that is through inner child work, which is another aspect of self. Child Claire is profoundly present in artist Claire, as is the case for everyone. As children, we're not yet constrained to these worldly expectations, and our imagination knows no limits. So, if the best art comes from a place of freedom, flow, and childlike play, how can I then cultivate that in my everyday adult bill paying life? I've been intentionally trying to connect with Child Claire a lot lately, and a big way that I'm able to do this is through music. I think a good general rule of thumb is to pay attention to the five senses. What sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and feelings do you associate with childhood? Perhaps the smell and texture of Play Doh in your hands will bring you back to kindergarten. For me, I've been listening to a lot of music that I used to listen to as a kid. I'm thinking Miranda Cosgrove's Sparks Fly album, early Paramore, and the stuff that my parents would play around the house, like Simon and Garfunkel and Edith Piaf. I put this music on and I just dance, just let it flow through me. And something funny actually happened the other week when I was doing this. I'll let Void Claire tell you all about it. Oh my god. This is so crazy. So I got my first white hair the other day, 2 days ago actually. It was right here. right here in my head. So I'm in a really good mood, actually. I'm having a great day, and I see this white hair in the mirror, and I'm like, is that a white hair? I examine it closer. It definitely is. It was interesting because my initial like reaction was to be mortified. I was like, "Oh my god, I have a white hair." But honestly, I realized pretty immediately that I wasn't actually upset about that. I just felt like I should be. So once we got that silliness out of the way, I was actually really excited about this white hair. First of all, I just think it's hilarious that I'm 23 years old and I had a white hair. So I plucked out the hair just so I could get a better look at it. The idea of like throwing it away or something like that, it made me really, really sad. I ended up grabbing like I have a tiny little Tupperware for like spices, I think it is. And I was like, I'm gonna put the hair in the Tupperware. Right before all of this happened, I was having a great time. I was dancing around my room listening to the Beatles. I was in a great mood. I really felt like the child version of myself was there with me in spirit. Like it was little Claire at the reins. She was dancing around, just having a blast. And then I find this white hair. And so I there's this moment where I'm just holding this white hair, I'm looking at it, and I realize that like so many versions of me are present right now. Like I have child Claire is here in spirit, and then adult Claire is here physically in my body, and then this white hair is like a glimpse of old Claire. And I felt like that's just so beautiful that I had like these three major versions of myself just like together in one time. And we all just kind of hung out for a second. I just thought that was so beautiful. And so I put the hair in a Tupperware. It's on my desk. I still have it. I'm not going to get rid of it. I just think it's so lovely. And then I did some yoga because clearly I need to lower my stress level. This was a beautiful yet strange moment, and I'm really proud of myself for what I was able to take away from it. And it got me thinking about how we change as we grow older, specifically how our artist selves change. When we're kids, this creative energy flows through us unbothered, and then somewhere along the way, these blocks start to come up. It happens at different points for everyone, but it usually happens pretty early on in life. So now that I got child Claire locked and loaded, it's time to move on to middle school. Middle school is an objectively horrible time, but it's also the time when we really start to come into our interests. The music I listened to, the movies I watched, the things I did all evoke this ping of nostalgia that feels even more resonant than, say, elementary school, because this was around the time when I started to dig deeper into who I was. But this is also the time when a lot of blocks are forming. As I was navigating the awkward onset of puberty, I was also very concerned with molding myself into someone that I thought the world and my peers wanted me to be. I started dressing more normal. I started wearing makeup. I was straightening my then long hair. And that's not the only part of myself I was straightening. But as the stress of being in between child and young adult set in, I was able to take solace in the things that I loved, like the Arctic Monkeys and watch Mojo videos. One big way that I've been able to connect with tween and early teen Claire is through a bit of what I like to think of as divine intervention that came into my life some 10ish months ago. I'll let Void Claire take it away. I have been rereading my favorite fan fiction, and it's consuming my every waking thought, and it's a problem. Little story time. Okay, I'm gonna take you back a decade or so. 13-year-old Claire, she is the world's biggest Harry Potter fan. Like, I'm talking, I read those books religiously. I studied trivia so that I could know as much about it as humanly possible. This was all consuming. This was like every waking moment I was thinking about Harry Potter. And the one thing that I wanted more than anything else in the world was a prequel series about the Marauders, which is Harry's parents and their friends. And that just sort of that era of the first Wizarding World. I wanted that story so bad. So I scoured the internet for the perfect fan fiction, and every single one that I came across just like had some problem that I couldn't quite get past. It either like wasn't canon compliant or the characterizations just felt a bit off. Little things where it was just like, no, I don't buy this. Like I have to buy it as like a plausible prequel to Harry Potter, right? And eventually I realized that the fan fiction that I'm looking for doesn't exist. It just doesn't. And this was very, very sad for me. It was very, very tragic. I remember the moment that I decided to give up looking. And it was like one of the most devastating. It really felt like my dreams had been shattered. And it was very, very sad, but eventually I was able to move on with my life. Flash forward about 9 years. Okay, I'm 22 years old. It's June of 2024, and I'm scrolling on YouTube, and what do I see here? My eyes come across a video called "Unpacking the Marauders Fandom," and I was like, I haven't heard that name in years. So I decided to watch it, and come to find out, to my utter delight and surprise, the Marauders fandom apparently had some kind of resurgence in like 2020. And now it's like it's more active than ever, and there are more fan fictions than ever. Some things did change over the years, but that's okay. But for the first time in about a decade, I started to feel like hope. I was like, could it be that all my searching wasn't in vain? Could it be that there is the perfect Marauders fanfiction out there after all? So I get recommended this one called The Last Enemy by C.H. Darling on AO3, and I read it. It's like I found it. I found it. This is it. This is the one. This is the one. This is what I've been looking for years. This is what I've been looking for 10 years. And it's here and I have it. And it's just, oh my god, it's so good. It's so well thought out, and the characterizations are really the main part, because that's really the crux of the story, because we don't know a lot about the Marauders from Harry Potter. We really, like, the most important thing that we know is how their story ends. James and Lily are betrayed by one of their best friends, Peter Pettigrew, who gives them over to Voldemort. They die, leaving Harry an orphan to be raised by abusive family members. Peter Pettigrew fakes his own death and frames Sirius Black for his murder and the betrayal of James and Lily, leading to Sirius being falsely imprisoned in Azkaban for 13 years, and Remus Lupin thinking that Sirius betrayed everyone, and also now eternal outcast Remus Lupin has no friends, and he needs to retreat into the edges of society. And that's, like, really sad and all, but what if you made me love these characters as if they were my family, and then all that horrible stuff happens? I would never be able to emotionally recover from that, and that's exactly what I want. So the characterizations are really, really the most important part. Only 2 of the 4 books are out so far, but I swear to God, this fanfiction has some of the best character developments and the best characterization I've ever read in my entire life, fanfiction or otherwise. Like, I think it might be the best. In terms of characterization, I think it's the best thing I've ever read. Yeah, I'm standing by that. I think I'm right about that. It's just so good, and it's told in multiple views, each chapter is a different view, and all the characters' voices are so incredibly distinct. Everyone does it. 13-year-old Claire was very, very adamantly anti-Wolfstar, which, if you don't know what Wolfstar is, that is the ship name of Sirius Black and Remus Lupin. People think that they are a gay couple, and they write them as such in, like, most Marauders era fanfiction. Was very chances, because I just didn't buy it. Maybe one thing, it's not canon, obviously. I didn't buy 2 openly gay 15-year-old schoolboys in the 70s in, like, during the rise of a fascist regime. Like, I was like, no, that didn't happen. I don't buy it. But I could be convinced if you were to make a very, very compelling argument. And let's just say I've been won over. Oh my god! Like, tell me why the Wolfstar bits are my favorite parts of these 2 books. So first of all, like, nothing's happened yet. Absolutely nothing's happened yet. But it's like some of those beautiful passages I've ever read in my entire life are about these 2. It's just so good. It's just so well written. And it's written in a way that makes so much sense. And so she doesn't make very, like, the characters, like, all 3 of those characters are written so well. Where it's like, yes, this is the character from Harry Potter books I know. Like, this is that character. So I feel like the way that they're written, it's just like her Sirius Black is my Sirius Black, is the book's Sirius Black. Her Remus Lupin is my Remus Lupin, is the book's Remus Lupin. Like, the characters just feel so true to canon that, like, the way that their relationship is written in The Last Enemy feels so true to canon. And the way that she wrote it, I can't imagine it being any other way. So, like, I guess I'm a Wolfstar fan now? Like, you sold me. Hook, line, and sinker. Signed, sealed, delivered. I get it now. I get it. And I'm in full support. But it's just so natural. And Jilly has been my OTP since people still say things like OTP. I love them. They're like a built-in enemies lover story. And it's like classic, like, jock boy, bookish girl sort of dynamic. And most of it comes down to, like, the unknown. Like, I get so excited every time I think about it, because it's just so good. The only time we, like, see them together is in Snape's Worst Memory, where Lily is yelling her head off at James, and you're like, oh, she fucking hates this guy. And then, apparently, less than 2 years later, they're madly in love, and then they decide to get married and have a kid together. So it's like, something happened. Something happened, and I want to know what it is, because I bet it's juicy. And I know, because we know they together here. I know they're together at the beginning of the next book, and, like, just, like, so many moments between those 2 have me, like, kicking my feet, giggling. I love it. The relationships between the 4 boys are, it's just so good. It's so good. The dialogue's incredible. I guess I wouldn't consider myself, like, a Wolfstar truther. Like, I completely understand and recognize that there's absolutely nothing in the original 7 books that imply, even remotely, that Sirius Black and Remus Lupin were fucking or wanted to fuck. I guess I think now is just, we're just so much more interesting than they were. I mean, there's just so much potential in that story. I see it now. I see it now, I understand it, and I'm full support it, actually. Like, I can tell that this was written by someone who just, like, gets it. Who gets it, and who wants this to exist as much as I do. More than I do, because she's actually writing it. I'm not doing shit. This is the thing, it's not just canon compliant on a surface level, like this is well researched. This is a prequel. It's a very, very interesting story from like a political perspective. So I'm really, really happy that such a big emphasis is placed on that in the books. And all the religious perspective, another one, because she's the group that's going to be impacted the most by this. And it's just so well done. I feel like anyone who loves Harry Potter, especially anyone who loves Harry Potter and hates the bullshit that J.K. Rowling has been spewing for years now, anyone who meets those two requirements would absolutely love this series. It's just so well done. But it just makes me so happy. Like I found it. I found it. Ain't that the truth? So, turns out the most effective way to get through to 13-year-old Claire is to visit her where she lives. Hogwarts. That's right, I was a massive, massive Potterhead all throughout my formative years, and J.K. Rowling is patient zero as to why I make it a point to know as little about the personal lives of celebrities as possible. I love it. But basically, this whole thing, all of this to say, I I found it. And it just makes me so happy that I have found this. I feel like it feels like my prayers have been answered. It feels like a dream come true. I actually remember having a dream when I was 13 or 14. I remember like having an actual dream where I found the Perfect Marauders fan fiction, and just like the wave of relief that came over me. I was just so happy. I was so like peaceful in the knowing that this exists. And then I woke up and it wasn't real and I was devastated again. But like now it is real. And I know it just makes me so, so happy, because I know that if I could get in a time machine and I could go back 10 years and tell 13-year-old Claire, we found it. Just those three words, like not even have any context whatsoever. I could just say, we found it. And she would know exactly what I was talking about. And she would be so, so happy. So I feel like reading this fan fiction over the past couple weeks as like my 10 billionth reread has just been, it's been very healing for my 13-year-old self. And I feel like I've really needed that lately. As Void Claire said, it's very healing for 13-year-old Claire. I'm not kidding when I say that I wanted this more than anything in the world. Back then, if you had presented me with a genie who grants 3 wishes, I would have said, I want a Marauders book series, I want a Marauders TV show, and I want my boobs to come in already. Should be any day now. And I recognize how utterly lucky I am to have a new thing that makes me feel like I'm 13 again. I mean, how special is it that I found something in 2024 that makes me want to read it sitting under a blanket in the corner of my room eating Kraft mac and cheese? Truly magical, if you'll forgive the pun. This is Sirius Black's wand, by the way. I also have Severus Snape's wand. I kind of like this one better. It's shorter, but it's heavier. Feels good in my hand. Okay, now I'm done. I just keep getting pulled back into it. I've like, and there's so much more that I could say. Like, honestly, we haven't even breached the tip of the iceberg. I could say so much more, but I'm not going to because I'm getting tired. But it's important to have things like this. I've started to view connecting with my younger self as a form of self love. It allows me to see clearly how I've changed and all the things that I've been able to work through. Like when I have a pimple, I no longer view it as an admonishment of my self worth like I did when I was in high school, but rather I tell myself that I'm beautiful and observe as the teenager in me flinches away like a vampire being splashed with holy water. Lately, I've been trying to practice more acts of self love. Like, a very simple one that I like to do is every night before I go to bed, I will fill up a glass full of cold water and I'll put it on my bedside. That way, in the morning, I have something to drink first thing in the morning. And it's very good for you to drink water first thing in the morning. And then also, it's like it's a gift from the past version of myself, which is, I think, very cute. So like that's a little act of self-love. And like the other day I was in the grocery store and they had flowers on sale. They had like a build your own bouquet thing where you could get like little bundles of flowers. And I thought that was so cute and I got really excited about it. I was like picking out my flowers and then I was like there was a part of me that was like, Claire, like you like why are you wasting your money on this? Like why are you buying flowers for yourself? Why are you wasting money on this? You shouldn't be buying this. And then I thought to myself, Claire, If you had a significant other and you saw these flowers here, would you even hesitate for a second to buy the flowers? And the answer was absolutely not. So why can't I extend that same energy towards myself? So I bought the flowers and they brighten up my day every single time. I've had them now for like a few days, like maybe like 4 days, and I just love them. I just love them. I love looking at them. I love smelling them. I love taking care of them. And that's just kind of how I've come to look at self love, like treating yourself like a partner and treating yourself like doing favors for the future version of yourself. It's strange because, like, when something's just an idea, it can be as big as you want it to be. Like, it knows no limits, it knows no bounds. Like, I can sit here and think to myself, I'm gonna create a YouTube channel, and once I do, I'm gonna be so successful, I'm gonna be so famous, I'm gonna, like, get monetized immediately, and I'm gonna be able to do this full time, and it's gonna be great. I can pull it off, I can do that. And it's like, while all that stuff is still an idea, it can be true. Like, no one can tell you that you aren't capable of doing that until you try it, right? So I guess there is just sort of that fear of starting something. Like, maybe I'm not as capable as I thought of achieving those things. So as long as I'm just dreaming about them, then, I can still uphold this image of myself, this ideal image of myself in my head, so long as I never have any tangible proof of the opposite, which I guess would be failure. But if anything, wouldn't the real failure be just not attempting? Food for thought. In The Creative Act, Rick Rubin talks about the cycle of creation and how the universe gifts us with ideas and we give back by releasing those ideas into the world in the form of art, which will in turn inspire someone else to create, and so on and so forth. But if all of our ideas stay in creative purgatory, we're not able to finish this cycle, which not only does a disservice to ourselves, but also to the world and everyone around us. So, how do I start outputting more? Well, two of my creative mediums require being on camera: YouTube and acting. So it's very important that I make myself comfortable here. This void state gives me the opportunity to try whatever I want, complete freedom. And it really does feel like you're making this thing and you're putting it out into the void of the internet. Like, no one, like, it feels hard to imagine that anyone could, like, stumble across my channel. Like, and because it's so small right now, it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. So it's like, I think for a lot of people that's disencouraging, because obviously the goal when you put yourself out there is to be seen and recognized for your efforts, and to, especially on YouTube, to like find that community of like-minded people. And when that doesn't happen, or when it takes a very long time for that to happen, it can be disillusioning, it can be disappointing. But I kind of feel the opposite. Maybe I'm just a loner, but I honestly, I feel like it's very comforting knowing that, like, no one's gonna watch this. I can just do what I want to do. And I feel like in those couple weeks after I released those videos, I was thinking about, like, what's my next one going to be? And there was always this sort of pressure about, like, whatever the next one's going to be, like, that's the one that's going to blow up. That's the one. Because that's the thing about this whole YouTube thing, is like, you really never know. Like, the strangest videos go viral. But I think after having a couple experiences of putting videos out there, it began to, like, taint the the inspiration process, like the process of coming up with ideas, scripting them, filming them, all of that stuff that happens before you put the video out there, I was all of a sudden thinking about the end result. I wasn't like overly concerned with this stuff, I wouldn't say, but I definitely like started to get like a YouTuber brain. Like before I started this, I watched all of those videos about like how to make it on YouTube and just like all these little tips and tricks to like push your videos out and get better lighting and all that stuff. So I think it's important for me to remember why I'm doing this. I only have 2 videos up right now, but it is easy to get caught up in the business aspect of it all. The how do I get the most views? Because we use those numbers on a screen to determine the value of our art. But it's important to remember that there are real people behind those numbers. As of right now, my second video has 22 views. And yes, some of those views are myself and my family, but at least a few of those are people who stumbled across the video and decided to give it a watch. Maybe they watched all the way through, maybe they didn't, but those small numbers suddenly take on new meaning when I envision 22 people in my room watching me speak. Also, the value of our art is not determined by the praise that it receives or lack thereof. Moby Dick is considered to be the great American novel, but it was widely dismissed upon its release. It actually wasn't until after Herman Melville's death when people started to change their opinions about it. So, does that mean that the book was bad and then just one day suddenly became good? No, of course not. And that is just an example of something that later got the recognition it quote unquote deserved. Think about how many great works of art that are probably out there that were dismissed and remain that way. So, thinking about the value of our art in terms of reception is completely arbitrary and probably does more to hurt us in the long run. And being overly concerned with this stuff is just going to create another block. And as I said earlier, we need to recognize and address these blocks as they come up so that the creative energy can flow through us unhindered. For me, being the best artist I can is closely tied with being the best person I can. One of my biggest blocks has to do with my ability to communicate. And one of the reasons that I started this channel is because I want to get better at articulating my thoughts. I want to feel more comfortable speaking. The reason that I wanted to start a YouTube channel was because I feel it's actually multiple reasons. There are a lot of reasons why I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and none of them had anything to do with money. None of them had anything to do with, um, I want people to look at me, look at me. Really, where it starts is I want to feel more confident in sharing my opinions. I want to feel more confident speaking my thoughts. And I feel like this is the perfect way to do that because this is my channel. What I say goes. I was always like the quiet kid, I guess. I wasn't like I would never have described myself as shy. I just I would have described myself as more reserved. To me, shyness sort of implies that like you are afraid to speak because of like what other people might think or how you're going to be perceived. Like you are it implies like some sort of fear, whereas reserved is just I don't want to speak right now. I don't feel the need to speak right now, so I'm not going to. And that's where I felt like I mostly resided for most of my childhood. But anyone who's like more on the quiet side or anyone who's an introvert knows like we freak people out. I don't know. I've gotten so many like comments in my life, like people my entire life have told me that I'm too quiet. And generally I don't care what other people think about me and I never really have all that much, but I mean, like no one is that impervious. When everyone makes like the same comments about you, it does start to seep in. So when I would get this unsolicited feedback time and time again that I'm too quiet and I need to talk more, I did start to internalize it and I did start to think that like maybe they're right. And what's really interesting is I feel like at least for me, because I'm such like a more naturally reserved person, once I start feeling like attacked, Like, I feel like these like criticisms are piling on me. It just makes me want to retreat into myself even more. So like these people would say something about like me being too quiet, and it just made me want to be even more quiet. Or then if I did actually have something to say, if I had something to contribute to the conversation, it was like it's going to be this big thing, because it's like I'm going to say something and then someone's going to be like, oh, she speaks, or something, some bullshit like that. And then it's like I feel like because I've so cemented myself as this quiet person, I felt this added pressure that like everything I do say has to have some sort of weight to it. Does that make sense? Like the things I say need to be like extra important because I talk so little. And it's like I don't want that kind of pressure. So I'm not going to talk. And I do realize that that's mostly pressure that I've put on myself. I do think that like there are people who make you feel bad about that, but those aren't like really the people that I'm paying attention to really anymore in my life. But, growing up and having all of those experiences throughout my life did kind of um, make me into a more reserved person than I think I naturally am. So it got to a point where I realized that I am not very good at speaking. I'm not very good at translating my thoughts and feelings into words. And that's something that I want to get better at. And I feel like this YouTube channel is the perfect way for me to do this. I mean, like I have 2 videos up right now. They're not very long, but combined, it's like that's like almost 40 minutes of just me talking. Like 40 straight minutes of me just yapping into a camera. And like that's so cool. I feel like some version of me would be so proud of me, and I am proud of me. I'm very very proud of me. I don't think I'll ever be the most talkative person in the room, and I don't want to be. That's not who I am. But this channel gives me a chance to speak 100% on my terms, and I do think that that's very valuable for me. There's also the technical aspect of it. Any theater trained actor who transitions to on camera work will tell you that it is a very, very different medium. You know that saying, the camera doesn't lie? Yeah, well, your job as an actor is precisely to lie. Lie to the thing that is sitting a foot away from your face and can always tell when your heart's not in it. It's easy. So, by filming myself more often, I'm able to get more comfortable being natural in front of the camera, especially in public. If the best way to train myself is through exposure therapy, then what could possibly be better than the terrifying prospect of vlogging in public? I recorded myself in public for the first time a couple weeks ago, just reading in nature. I set up my tripod and sat under a tree for like 30 minutes. I remember feeling so self conscious at first. Like, part of me was in my body, but the other part was hyper aware of everyone walking by. I honestly don't even know if people were looking at me or judging me, but just the act of knowing that they can is enough to cause discomfort. But eventually, I was able to fall into the story and forget about the fact that I was recording myself. For the most part. Then I figured the next step was to record myself speaking in public. Much more attention grabbing than simple B roll. So I grabbed my yarn and hook, my tripod, my mini microphone, and I headed outside because I had more to say about the Marauders. The state of the Marauders fandom since I left it in what, I don't even remember the year, like 2015, 2016, it's changed a lot since then. The characters themselves, like the characterizations, the fanon characterizations are so different from canon and from what it used to be. Like apparently people are shipping James and Regulus now. So they're called the Slytherin Skittles and they're all gay, which I think is an interesting choice because for all intents and purposes they are Nazis. Sirius Black is a short, effeminate twink now. That's new. People see me putting up the camera and that's like, feels like it should be embarrassing, but it's kind of embarrassing. But I don't know, it feels like it should be more embarrassing than it is, but I feel like I'm at a point in my life right now and a point in my artistic journey where like nothing's gonna stop me. You know, it's like, oh, I'm getting weird looks, I'm gonna stop doing this. That's not gonna happen. It's just gonna be like, oh, I'm getting weird looks. And I might feel weird about it. But the point is, that's not gonna stop me. That's the point. The point isn't, like, bravery is not what we do. Bravery is not feeling a lack of fear. Bravery is what we do in the face of fear. Which is something that James says in The Last Enemy. This was an interesting exercise. I noticed that I wasn't as concerned with the people around me on a conscious level, but whenever anyone would wander into earshot of me, that would be the moment that I tended to lose my train of thought. Or watching it back, I noticed that I got a little bit quieter without realizing it. These subtle, sneaky forms of self-sabotage. But practice makes perfect, and I'm sure that the more I do it and the more that I'm able to notice these behaviors as they come up, the better at it I'll get. So, the point of all of this was to come up with a series of habits and practices to help facilitate my creative growth as much as possible. And now we arrive at the moment of truth. We've already moved through reframing how I think about the creative process and a couple of different exercises, but now is the time to put it all together. So, how do I make things? Most of us spend a significant amount of time at work or at school, and it can be really frustrating to feel like our time isn't ours, like it belongs to someone else. So it's important for me to allocate some time in the morning just for myself. For years now, I've been trying to figure out a morning routine that works for me, and I don't want to set anything in stone because it has changed in the past and it will change in the future, I'm sure. But there are a few things that I think are helpful for me to do before I start the day. Number 1, dream journaling. So the first thing I want to do when I wake up in the morning is write down my dreams. I used to do this and my dreams were getting really vivid. I went from only being able to recall like one dream vaguely to recalling 3 or 4 dreams a night within like a week of doing this. I stopped because one night I had a dream that made me uncomfortable and I didn't want to write about it, which is such a cop-out. If anything, the fact that it made me uncomfortable is reason enough to keep doing it. But beyond that, there are multiple benefits to doing this. It allows us to connect to our subconscious, process emotions. It can help with lucid dreaming. The moments right after waking up are crucial to establishing our baseline mood throughout the day. So if you do have a bad dream and wake up on the wrong side of the bed, processing this and identifying it first thing makes it easier to turn it around. And who knows, maybe some big epiphany will present itself. We always hear the phrase, "it came to me in a dream," so maybe some big idea will come to me in my dreams. Maybe not, but I won't know that until it happens, and it definitely won't happen if I fall back into the practice of forgetting my dreams the second that I wake up. Number 2, meditation. Some number of months ago, my mom got me a Shakti meditation mat, and if you don't know what that is, it's a mat with a bunch of little spikes on it that you lay on to meditate on. It's a form of acupressure and it helps promote circulation and relaxation in the body. I started to use this and honestly, I noticed the benefits like immediately. I felt calmer, more grounded, more clear-headed throughout the day. It was just like an excellent way to start the day, just overall. So I found something that's good for me, something that really, really works for me. So naturally I stopped doing it. But there are a plethora of reasons to meditate, and I could sit here and list all the benefits, but we would be here all day, and I don't wanna. The main one that I think is helpful for creatives is that it helps us stay more mindful, more present, and we need to be present in order to create. Number 3, movement. Breaking news. Unfortunately, eating healthy and exercising regularly does improve your life. The health experts were right. But in all seriousness, it is very beneficial to move your body in the morning. This can be through a full workout. I usually like to do some yoga, or you can just put on some music and dance and move intuitively for a few minutes. It's energizing, it lets your body know it's time to start the day. I usually feel more grounded and focused throughout the day whenever I intentionally move my body in the morning as opposed to just rolling out of bed. Number 4, morning pages. There's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and it's a 12-week program to help unlock your creativity. I started this book like a year ago, And honestly, I fell off at like week 3, but one of the main practices really stuck with me, and that is morning pages. I've always been really into journaling, so when the book talked about doing 3 stream of consciousness pages every single morning, it wasn't quite as daunting to me as I know it probably is for other people, but I was doing this pretty inconsistently for months even after I fell off the program. But then this year I made it one of my resolutions to do this every single day, and I am proud to say that I have not skipped a day in 2025. This kind of serves as like a mini written form of my speaking to the void exercise. It's a brain dump, a chance for me to be as niche, unfiltered, and unorganized as I want to be. So I've yet to have any big epiphanies in the morning pages, as I know that can sometimes happen according to the artist's way, but it's nice to have something to start the day with, and it's nice knowing that I built a habit because I didn't have to do that. Those geese are loud. Look at that. Oh my god. It's so beautiful out here. Anyways. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to do all of these things every single morning. Stuff happens. Sometimes I want to take a break, and I don't always have the time, but it's a good starting point. So, all of that stuff is stuff that should, in theory, help facilitate the flow of new ideas on a subconscious level. But what about when I'm actively working on something and I'm feeling stuck? What do I do in those moments to help get the wheels turning again? Number 1, switch up your environment. When you're feeling stuck, it can be really helpful to physically relocate because our environment affects our creativity. We take in what we experience around us, put it through our unique creative filter, and output it in the form of art. So if you're dissatisfied with what you're outputting, or if you're having trouble outputting at all, maybe it's time to change what you take in. Number 2, present it to the different versions of yourself. If I don't know what to do, maybe it's time I had a talk with Child Claire. The Creative Act spends a lot of time talking about rules. We tend to follow a series of written and unwritten rules and guidelines for our art, whether or not we realize it. And a big part of the creative process is tearing down these rules and then building them back up again, essentially playing around with the boundaries of whatever it is you're working on. And who better to question the rules and push the boundaries than our inner child, the part of ourselves that's unfailingly curious and doesn't yet believe that there's a limit to what they can do. Number 3, have multiple interests. If you are a multi-passionate creator like myself, if you have multiple things that you're interested in, you can utilize this to your advantage. All art forms are just creative energy disguised in slightly different earthly form. So it's nice to have multiple things that you're interested in because if you feel a block in one area, you can just move on to another, and that usually helps get things flowing again. Sneak in through the back door. Having interest in so many different things used to be like somewhat of a detriment or a curse because what would happen is like I'm so interested in so many things, but none of these things would ever hold my interest for long enough. So like I would have all these projects that are half completed and then nothing to show for it. Or I would get really really into something and then I lose interest before I can even like start on a project. Or I'm so interested in so many different things, I don't know where to start, and so I just end up like decision paralysis. I just don't do anything. But I feel like now I'm able to work with it more. Like I'm interested in so many different things, which is great because when I'm experiencing like a block or burnout in, let's use the YouTube thing again, I don't have any ideas for a video. I don't feel like recording. I don't, want to do any of this. I am totally, oh my God, I did it again. I'm totally experiencing a block in this aspect. That's okay because I also crochet and I have all these lovely projects that I already know. I already have the guidelines for. I already know what I'm going to do. I just have to do it. And the act of doing something with my hands, the act of creating something is like, I can feel it reigniting my spirit and I can feel it giving me inspiration again. Piggybacking off of that, it's important to have things that you're working on that are already formed or have some sort of guidelines to them. In this example, I used a crochet work in progress. It could also be working on skills. If you draw, do some easy drawing exercises or learn a new technique. Or maybe get yourself a coloring book and just mindlessly scribble. Something that doesn't feel like it takes any ingenuity or creative power, you just have to do it. So, future Claire, I hope you find some of this useful, and remember, next time you're feeling stuck, maybe just turn on a camera and see what happens. You might have something interesting to say. Or not. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't even like I don't know. I don't know. What was I saying? Like I don't even remember what I was talking about. But what was I saying? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What was I saying? God, it's gone. I don't know what I was saying. What was I saying earlier? I don't know.